Hello, hello. Welcome to Rise and Receive. This is a reset point in your day where you get to explore how to receive what you most want by unlearning struggle. And today's topic is receive support, how to open the flow gates. Today is part 1, Wednesday will be part 2, and Friday will be part 3. So if you would like more support in your life, personal life, professional life, if you struggle with receiving it, if you wonder what it's going to take, if you don't know how to access it, if you think you need to have more money in order to get support, if there's any kind of struggle around receiving support, then I really encourage you to stick around for this entire Rise and Receive, because I think it's going to give you some new ways at looking at how to open the floodgates. So be thinking about that. Be thinking about how that's true for you in your life. And to understand what we're going to do here today, I have just started a brand new series with Rise and Receive, where my focus is in helping you to get unstuck around receiving the things that you most want in life. And so each week for a while now, I'm going to be focusing on one thing that is a very common thing that people want. So support is one of them. Last week we talked about joy, and these are going to be things that you wish to manifest on an inner world level, like things like feelings, like receiving and manifesting a feeling of freedom or joy or peace. Or maybe it's outer world things like receiving money and receiving, sorry, somebody was knocking on my door, so I just got distracted. Receiving money, receiving wealth, receiving relationships, families, babies. So that's what we're going to do. And if it's something that you've been striving for or working hard towards, then you might be stuck. And what we're going to talk about is going to help with that. Okay. So the way we do it is I illuminate blind spots. All right. And I define a blind spot as when your current point of view hides an essential insight. And specifically, a receiving blind spot is when you are operating as a human doing versus a human being. That's what causes unnecessary struggle. Now, what happens is if you're operating as a human doing, you're probably very well informed and connected and practiced in the doing model of power. And the doing model of power is a whole lot of thinking, a whole lot of action, a whole lot of figuring out. But most of us are malnourished or absent in our connection to our being model of power. And the being model of power is easier. It's flowing, and it allows you to manifest things beyond what you could do on your own. All right, so we're going to be talking about receiving blind spots, because what happens is when you don't know how to receive, and when you don't know how to look at the world through that receiving lens, then if you're not receiving your fulfillment, if you're not receiving what you've been working hard for, what do? We work even harder. And that is the cause of unnecessary struggle. So if you don't know me, my name is Sonia Miller. I'm a speaker, coach, and best-selling author. And if you haven't gathered by now, I'm passionate about teaching the very tangible, result-producing skill set of receiving. So let's talk about today's blind spot. I like to call this blind spot the provider blind spot, which means that you are looking at receiving support through the lens of a provider. A provider is a doer or a hunter, okay, which means that you're going to focus on what you want and go out and get it, okay? And it has you focus on doing versus being. Now, I'm going to read you a segment of this card from my brand new Receive card deck, which is entitled Receive Support. If you want to do a deep dive on the entire card, just check on the links that I'll be providing. If it's YouTube below and Facebook above, and you can click on the Receive Support link to the YouTube and really do a deep dive. For today, I'm going to just read a segment that really illuminates this blind spot. So I invite you to sit back and see which part of this resonates for you, because most people will resonate with one aspect of this. So here it goes. Just let it wash over you. While some of us lean more towards independence and some of us lean more towards dependence, the ability to ask for and receive healthy support is essential to your quality of life. Yet if taken to either extreme, from overdependency to fierce independence, we limit our capacity to flourish and receive the fulfillment that life offers. If you are dependent on support, you may enjoy the contribution of others and benefit from assistance, emotional encouragement, and creative collaboration. But if you over-rely on support and lack your own personal North Star, extreme dependency may restrict your connection to your personal and unique life force. Support then becomes a crutch, and you might believe that the best you can do is hobble along through life while missing the chance to discover how to run and even soar. If you're fiercely independent, you may shun support. While living life on your own terms and taking 100% of the credit for your accomplishments can be quite gratifying, you might miss the opportunity to share your successes with another who truly understands the cause for celebration. On the flip side, when you need to rest or take your foot off the gas, the engine comes to a stop. Without support, all momentum stalls, and when you hit a setback, it's up to you to find the will and the strength to keep going. So consider if you resonate with one or both, a little bit of both of those scenarios, being dependent and how you feel about being dependent on support, or fiercely independent and how you feel about receiving support. Now, I'm going to give you a willingness mantra because this is the first step in opening the flow gates, is to put your attention on what I call reasonless receiving. You get to receive for no reason at all. And then we'll talk more about the blind spot. So here's your mantra. If you need support, if you want support, if you're struggling with support, then anytime you notice, become aware, take a breath, and say this mantra to yourself out loud. It's very, very powerful. Here we go. I am willing to receive support in ways better than I ever imagined possible. I am willing to receive support. I am willing to receive support in ways better than I ever imagined possible. Now you'll notice that willingness mantra doesn't say how you're going to do it or where you're going to get it or anything about the conditions. It's unconditional, and willingness is one of the most powerful ways to activate the power of invitation. Invitation is the key to receiving, okay? The doing model of power focuses on intention, which means you have to know what you're focusing on. And then that often leads to, like a hunter, that's a provider, starting to pull out all of the tools and all of the skills and your analysis and your research in your body to make something happen. But when you focus like a hunter does, let's say you think you need support for childcare and has to come a certain way, like you have to hire a babysitter and you have to have the money and all of these conditions have to be fulfilled. What happens is a provider, a hunter, focuses on something to the exclusion of all else. And then what that does, because your consciousness creates, it can block the flow of receiving childcare from all sorts of unexpected places. Okay? Because the receiving model opens up as opposed to focuses in, and focuses on the essence of support instead of the form of support, so that the flow can really happen. So that's one of the ways that you start to open the floodgates. The other thing that I really want to highlight around this particular provider blind spot is that when we are operating from the doing model of power, and we are just so unconscious in our training in that, in our conditioning in that, we tend to think that our self-worth is based in what we do, not who we be. Doing versus being, okay? If your sense of self-worth is based on what you do, then all sorts of stuckness and blockage to the flow occurs because you're setting up conditions, and then judgment about yourself and your value and your worth. So if you're dependent on support or independent, that sense of, am I worthy? Can I really allow myself to simply receive? We'll talk more about that on Wednesday when we talk about the transaction blind spot, okay? We think that we can only receive as a transaction, so that's very tied in with your self-worth. So if you notice that you have discomfort about either I'm needing support and I'm dependent on support and that's too much, or I'm not worthy of this much support and yet I need more, or I don't want any support because if I receive support, then it means I'm weak. We have all of these judgments about our worth. That's going to get you stuck around opening the flow gates. So how do we become unstuck? The thing I wanted to highlight for today is, first of all, just do what you're doing today. Notice if there's any discomfort around receiving support, where you feel like you're leaning towards being dependent on support or fiercely independent. Just notice the discomfort, and then as best you can, let it be here. Just let it be here. Because what we do with discomfort is we get so wrapped up, like a good provider, in fixing it, that blocks the flow. So just let it be here. That's part of the 3-step receiving method I teach, ALI. A is awareness, L is let it be here, and I is invitation. So we've touched on that today. An awareness around where you're at with support, an opportunity to let it be here rather than trying to fix it, and the willingness mantra is an invitation. This all helps open the flow. And to further the energy of willingness, be willing to receive for no reason at all. You don't have to do anything. Just be willing. And as you become willing to discover unconditional receiving and reasonless receiving, and you open up to unexpected expressions and channels of it, things show up in your life. That's how receiving works. So here's the willingness mantra one more time. I am willing to receive support in ways better than I ever imagined possible. So, if you would like to learn more about receiving, ALI, that's it. That's the 3-step receiving method. It is incredibly simple. The mind will want to complicate it. The mind will not believe things can happen just by practicing training your awareness. But as I always say, the proof is in the pudding. You can check out the Receive course, all of the resources I offer, my website. There's so many examples of the kinds of things people start receiving when they learn how to receive. So to learn more, there are 3 easy, low-cost and no-cost ways you can just begin exploring. So I'm going to include links to those. One is the Receive class. It's a free webinar. I invite you to go check it out. Go to ReceiveClass.com. Set aside 70 minutes as a gift to yourself to really learn how to receive. It will give you everything you need to get started. Goes deeper into learning how ALI works. You can also sign up for the early bird list for the new Receive Oracle cards. They're at the printers now, so we're in the countdown to get them actually in hand. And very soon, I hopefully beyond some of these 2020 obstacles, we'll be able to open the doors for pre-order. So I'll keep you posted. Go to ReceiveCardDeck.com for that. And if you would like to explore receiving from me, 30 emails, which include a tiny micro teaching that opens up a space for you to receive, consider the Start Receiving Now 30-day challenge. Go to ReceiveChallenge.com. Learn more, ask questions, post them below. I always come back after I do these videos and respond as best I can. And I hope that you enjoy opening the flow gates to support easily through some of the things we talked about today. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you Wednesday where we'll explore blind spot number 2. Bye, everybody.